Imagine you're driving home late at night. Your hands are at 10 and 2, you're doing exactly the speed limit, and you're hyper-aware of every mirror. Suddenly, blue and red lights explode in your rear view. Your heart slams against your ribs. You immediately signal, pull over safely, and roll down your window. You did everything right. But within 60 seconds, the situation has spiraled into something far more dangerous than a broken taillight. And the terrifying truth is, you caused the escalation without even knowing it. Almost nobody talks about what really happens when a nervous brain meets a trained officer's threat perception. It's a psychological collision that has ended careers, changed laws, and destroyed lives. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact moment a routine stop transforms into a high-risk confrontation, and why your own fear might be the biggest threat in that car. But first, there's a hidden paradox about politeness that actually makes officers more suspicious. I'll explain that in a moment. Every year, millions of traffic stops happen across the United States and the United Kingdom. Most end uneventfully, but a small percentage escalate into searches, handcuffs, or force. When researchers analyzed body cam footage from hundreds of escalated stops, they discovered a pattern hiding in plain sight. The drivers weren't aggressive, they weren't combative, they were terrified. And that terror was being read as deception. This is the tragic irony of the nervous driver. When your brain perceives a threat, it doesn't care if that threat is a lion or a police officer. It activates the same ancient survival system. Your amygdala hijacks your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought. Suddenly, you're operating on instinct. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your voice trembles. Your hands might shake as you reach for your license. You might start speaking too fast, stumbling over your own words. From your perspective, you're just scared. But from the officer's perspective, you're displaying the exact same physiological markers as someone who is hiding a gun or a felony. But here's where it gets strange. This isn't just about shaking hands. There's a specific, almost universal behavior that nervous drivers do during a stop that officers are explicitly trained to see as a pre-attack indicator. It's not fidgeting with the glove box. It's not even arguing. It's something far more subtle, and you've probably done it yourself without realizing it. We'll uncover what that behavior is right after this. Think about the last time you felt truly anxious. Maybe before a public speech or a difficult conversation. Do you remember what your body wanted to do? Fight, flight, or freeze? In a car, you can't run and you can't fight. So many drivers enter a state of anxious overcompliance. They start moving too quickly, jerking their hands toward the glove compartment the second the officer asks for registration, desperate to prove they're cooperative. They might even throw open the car door to meet the officer halfway, thinking it shows respect. But in the world of law enforcement training, unexpected or fast movements are the #1 trigger for a defensive reaction. Officers are taught that hands kill. When your nervous energy translates into sudden, unpredictable gestures, you've accidentally placed yourself in a threat category. The stop hasn't escalated because you're a criminal. It's escalated because your fear looks exactly like danger. This changes everything when you see the data. A study published in the Journal of Police and Criminal Psychology found that high-anxiety drivers were significantly more likely to be perceived as deceptive even when they had nothing to hide. The physiological signals of anxiety, increased heart rate, rapid speech, averted gaze, overlap almost perfectly with the behavioral clusters taught in detection of deception training. The problem is that training often doesn't account for the difference between a liar and a terrified, law-abiding citizen. So the officer's suspicion increases, their tone hardens, they might place a hand on their holster, and the driver, sensing this shift, becomes even more panicked. A feedback loop is born. And then something unexpected happened. In a 2019 simulation study, researchers asked participants to interact with an authority figure after being given a stimulant that mimicked adrenaline. Nearly 40% of those participants exhibited what's called over-inclusive compliance. They nodded at everything, apologized excessively, even confessed to minor infractions they hadn't committed. This behavior, meant to de-escalate, had the opposite effect. It raised the authority figure's suspicion because it didn't match the baseline of a calm, innocent person. It's a devastating biological trap. Your own brain, trying to survive, hands the situation exactly what it needs to turn hostile. What's the one question you should ask yourself right now? Have you ever been so nervous during an interaction that you forgot something simple, like your own address? That mental blank is caused by cortisol flooding the hippocampus, temporarily impairing memory retrieval. An officer asks for your registration, and you freeze, patting your pockets in a blind panic. To them, the hesitation looks like a stall tactic. To you, it's a biochemical hijacking you never asked for. Understanding this doesn't just explain the escalation, it reveals why so many people walk away from a stop feeling humiliated, confused, and deeply violated, even when no ticket was written. So how do we break the loop? The first step is awareness, not of the law, but of your own nervous system. Recognizing that the urge to over-explain, to move fast, to flood the silence with nervous chatter, is a survival reflex that belongs in a cave, not a car. Law enforcement experts quietly admit that the safest stops are those where the driver is deliberate, slow, and verbalizes their movements before making them. Simply saying, "Officer, my registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach over slowly now," can disrupt the threat perception algorithm entirely. But let's circle back to that hidden paradox I mentioned at the beginning, the excessive politeness trap. You might think saying "yes, sir" and "no, sir" repeatedly, apologizing profusely, and showering the officer with deference signals cooperation. But in high-stakes encounters, overdone politeness can be flagged as a manipulation technique. It's called impression management, and in a criminal profiling context, it's actually a red flag. The very behavior you think is saving you might be building a case against you in the officer's mind. That's the silent tragedy of the nervous driver. You can follow every piece of advice about being respectful and still lose because your body is telling a story your words can't control. Here's the final twist. None of this is about blaming officers or drivers. It's about acknowledging a deeply human design flaw. We put two strangers in a high-stakes, low-information scenario, one wearing a badge and carrying a weapon, the other trapped in a metal box with a brain running ancient software. When fear meets training, the result isn't always justice. Sometimes it's just a tragic misunderstanding written into the nervous system of our species. If this truth hit you differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it. What's one thing your body does under extreme stress that you can't control? Tell me in the comments, because your story might be the one that wakes someone else up. Thank you for watching. Stay curious and stay safe out there.